Listen, I like physical basketball. I loved Game 4. Now, it did feel like for about 8 minutes it was a little mayhem. But, some of those Knicks Pacers, there was mayhem. There were fights. We're doing revisionist history. Like Game 4, everybody's like, it was out of control. And I was like, it kind of felt like about 30% of the 80s.
I feel the same exact way. Now, the refs did lose control of the game by today's standards. But I love the chippiness. I love seeing LeBron and Kevin Durant in each other's face.
I thought it was even the still photos were great.
That's classic. We're going to be looking back at that 20 years when they're talking about this series and this rivalry, and they're going to show that picture. So I think there's a happy medium between what happened in the 80s and the 90s was even worse. The Knicks and the Rockets and the fights and all that stuff. There's a happy medium between that and what we have today. We've gone too far in trying to take the emotion out of the game. I think if a guy dunks on you, he should be able to kind of stare at you as he runs up court without getting a technical. Come on, that's the emotion of the game.
Yeah, no, and in basketball, you don't wear a helmet, and unlike baseball, there's a physical proximity. Like in the NBA, basketball at the YMCA, when I dunk on you...
I remember seeing you dunk on somebody, and you were just all in the dude's face.
I'm okay. I don't love the crotch grab, because of the imagery.
Yeah, that's a little obscene.
But I'm like, I thought Game 4 was, for a while, there was a little mayhem.
Yeah. I hope it's like that tonight. I really do.
Okay, so let's talk. You have, without disclosing all your sources, you have very good connections to LeBron, and as good as anybody I know. And he's played a lot of good teams. I mean, he faced those old Boston teams, Detroit teams. Now, this is probably the best shooting team he's faced. But do you believe when LeBron has these conversations with friends, is this the best team he's faced?
I think this is the best team he's faced. I think that other teams have made it harder on him, though, and more difficult.
Well, that's a good point because, frankly,
he's having his way.
He's had his way for 3 straight finals against them.
Yeah, and each one of them, he had his way.
Yeah, he matches up to this skinny jeans team really well.
They can't handle his physicality. I think I think obviously the Spurs teams made it very difficult on LeBron. I think more than any other team with the way they defended and forced him to become an outside shooter. We saw in series, even when they won in 2013, he had trouble initially figuring out that defense. So I think they've made it tougher on him. I think Boston in the Big Three, he had a lot of trouble getting through them. Now, he would put up great numbers and dominate them to some degree, but they made it a lot tougher on him defensively. And then Detroit with Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace, Tayshaun Prince was a very good defender.
They were also long.
And Rip Hamilton would play with long fingernails. And he would grab guys and cut them on their arms and stuff with his fingernails. And LeBron felt that wrath sometimes. I know Rip's not a big guy, but fingernails can hurt.
I've never heard the Rip Hamilton fingernail story.
Yes, digs them into your arm. So, I think he may still have scars on his arms from that. I'm not even playing. So I think that those teams were so much more physical and stronger than this Warriors team that they made it tougher on LeBron, but I do think this is his toughest opponent.
Well, he's going to end up averaging 32 or 33. He's going to end up averaging a triple-double, and there's a chance he's going to get blown out again tonight. I think that speaks well to the Warriors' dominance, but to your point, mano-a-mano, I think other teams physically gave him more duress. So when you're in that arena in Cleveland, give me kind of, being their accounts of – because the Warriors did not – well, they played well for parts of the game they lost, but the game they won, they played well. When you're watching Cleveland and Golden State play, just give me a couple of minutes on – you're watching one of the greatest teams ever and arguably the greatest player ever. Of all the years you've covered the NBA, what do you make of just this matchup, these teams, these players, these egos – like, what do you make of it? How does it compare to you?
I think it's an all-time great rivalry. Now, if they continue to meet each other and Golden State wins 4 out of 5 or whatever it may be, that kind of makes it tough to be the best rivalry ever. I think you want to see both teams win some, but we're looking at 6 or 7 Hall of Famers. Like you said, arguably the greatest player of all time. I got him number 2 behind Michael Jordan. Kevin Durant. Now, he's not LeBron James.
Right.
Okay. But if he wins, say, 3 rings, you're going to have to look at him. And I said myself a few weeks ago, he'll never be considered like a top 10 player.
Okay,
if they win 3 rings and he leads them to the championship,
he's right next to Kobe.
Yes,
he's going to be right in that Kobe class.
He has to get up there because as good as Russell Westbrook was, he wasn't Shaq. Kobe played with Shaq.
Yeah, and this will go. You don't agree with me now, but if KD goes there and Russell never attracts another star, we're going to look at this thing in 5 years and go,
I just think it's different.
He drove KD crazy.
I just think it's different because for a few reasons. One, you're comparing the whole system and franchise to Russell Westbrook. Because remember, and I think Mark Jackson, number 1, did a great job in Golden State.
He did.
Defensively, especially.
He implemented that defensive structure.
Yep, and he put confidence in Steph and Clay. He built them up so much that they believed they could become great. But that team was not, nobody thought it could reach these levels. Nobody thought Steph could reach these levels. And they played offensively mainly like everybody else. Steph dominated the ball a lot more. It was a lot more high pick and roll. His numbers were actually better than his first MVP year, 24 points, 8 assists under Mark Jackson. But it was the system that Steve Kerr put in that took them to another level, as well as Draymond Green emerging. So I think it's unfair. It's not like it's just Steph and a bunch of role players and KD, like it was Westbrook and a bunch of role players and KD. Because they had no shooting. So when KD beat his man, nobody's guarding Andre Robertson. So they're coming on KD, so his shots were a lot tougher. I just don't think it's a fair comparison.
Well, maybe I'm
But
not.
I know it's a good story, though. It's a good theme.
Finally, Chris Broussard joining. If like when you're at the finals, you show up 2 hours, you have dinner with some of the NBA guys. There's a lot of people. There's league officials. There's broadcasters. There's players. There's coaches. If I polled everybody in the league, who do they want to win this series?
Cleveland.
Why?
Yeah. Well, one, a lot of old ex-players, like I was out in Cleveland and in a place, Scottie Pippen was there, Chauncey Billups, Charles Oakley,
all in one
Paul
place.
Pierce, all in. Ty Lue came in. It was actually the night before Game 4. Ty Lue was in. And so guys, they don't really like what Kevin Durant did. I mean, that's not a revelation. They've been saying it. So there's a little resentment toward that. So that's turned a lot more people toward LeBron, and they see the Cavs as the underdogs and all that stuff. And with Steph, we know that sometimes players respect Steph, but what they don't respect is that he doesn't guard you on the other end. You know, at least try. I mean, Kyrie's trying.
Well,
he's not a great defender.
If you're out having a drink with Charles Oakley and Pippen, they're not going to – I mean, those guys beat you up physically. Like, there's no question they would not be Steph guys. And
they feel – look, they do feel like that they would beat – they would beat these Warriors teams back in the day because they would get more physical with them. Now, you know, I think this is a great Warriors team, all-time great team.
Maybe I'm going crazy. Maybe I don't see myself as a prisoner of the moment, and I am less inclined to like physical, ugly basketball, which I do sometimes like. I have a hard time watching this series and watching. First of all, I've never seen a collection of this much talent in the finals. I mean, how many guys here
you'd have to go back to Lakers Celtics.
I mean, it's absurd. I got like 8, 9
of the 80s,
7 Hall of Famers in this thing. Maybe I'm too sway. I don't like the three-point shot, but now that it's here, I'm in awe of it. Like
I love your idea about having the three-point line run into the sidelines.
Yeah.
Because basically take away the corner three, because that would restore mid-range basketball. So then you'd have a balance: three-pointers, mid-range, and post.
Listen, you know who's going to win tonight? Whoever hits more threes. They've won every game of the series. I don't like the NBA being defined by one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had an NBA where, hey, best big man wins, like the 60s. I didn't think that was great because there was only like 4 great ones out there.
Yep.
So, like, I like basketball when you can win it. One of the reasons I love football is that the Patriots can win smart and the Packers can win with offensive personnel, and the Denver Broncos won with defensive personnel. This is my three-point plan. It's the Herd's three-point plan. I've had this now for a year, that if you created a three-point shot where the three-pointer went into the bench, it would not affect Curry, Durant. But what it would allow is 2 things. One, like you say, it brings back the mid-range jumper, but it would allow bigs to stay at home.
Yep, exactly. Because you can't put 5 people around the three-point line like you do now.
So having a big wouldn't matter. People would want centers. You'd score with centers. Because what's happening now with bigs on the floor, they're total liabilities.
Yep.
So they have to go chase down in the corner. I want to see centers make American centers great again. Yep. I want centers back in the NBA. I love centers.
I love that plan.
That's my plan.
Have you talked to Adam Silver about that?
America, this is my plan.
I second it. You got my support.
You can be my Pence.
Is that your presidential
Well, you're
hand?
not supposed to point at
Right.
people. You're supposed to do like Clinton did. You're supposed to do, if you point at people, it's a turnoff. Make America centers great again. Adopt my three-point plan. Cowherd care. That's what we'll call herd care.